Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Nitro 1 binding. I rode this binding at Copper Mountain on a day that was a mix of sunny, blue, and overcast skies. You had wet snow falling at times, warmer temps, chop, chunder, ice, slush, creamy corduroy, and I rode it on my Ride Shadow Band snowboard with my K2 Thraxis boots. With the straps, you have a flip tab on the heel and the toe. Pop it open, slide the strap out, push the strap in, you can get it centered over the boot. The toe strap is also on a push pin system, so you can push it down, slide it back, pull it up. This will also help center it over the toe of the boot. There are two screws that also hold the heel straps. This is how you lengthen or shorten the heel cup, so you can basically push it in or pull it out if you need to center it on your boot. And then you have the forward lean adjustment on the high back. Flip it up, slide it down, slide it up. That'll give you your forward lean. Finally, on the foot pad, you can slide it forward or a little bit back if you need to, depending on where your boot sits in the chassis. New for this year is the 3D OptiFrame heel strap. This is a very minimal design. It is a molded strap, so there's not going to be any excess padding. This is just going to contour over the instep of your boot. All the padding will be provided from your boot. One thing I'd like you to note is you will think that this looks cheap when you look at it. I think it's just the gray plastic on there, but this works well. It really does change the dynamic of how this locks you in and how tight you can actually get it and how secure you feel in the binding. With the toe strap, you get the Uber Grip toe strap. It's got a pretty wide cutout. This is gonna fit just about every boot shape out there. It really locks over it. It locks you down. You don't have to worry about it. These work. They work well. My only gripe with them is I think the release tab could be a little longer. It's still long enough that you can get a finger under there. It works. There's no excess play. They feel locked in. They climb exceptionally well. They do their job. All right, so we're somewhere in the middle of this review, I assume. Why don't you give this video a thumbs up? While you're down there, if you haven't subscribed, why don't you click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for you. There is some give in these high backs. When you drive into them, you don't get as much response as you would with others, but it's still enough that you can feel that it's there. It's got a good shape to it, and if you're trying to drive it on the outside or the inside, obviously you're gonna feel a little bit more. There's a little bit of padding in the bottom, and you also have that one quick flip on the fly forward lean adjustment. So if you're going in the half pipe or doing a bank slalom and you need to crank it, you can. This is a middle of the road flexing binding. You can charge with it when you need to. You can be laid back when you want to. You do get a little bit of response out of the high back towards the bottom, but the top has a lot of give. With it having a smaller disc, you do get some lateral play in it. When you drive into the straps, while they are a little softer, you still notice that they cradle around that instep, and when you push into it hard, that response kicks in. But if you're being laid back, you don't feel like you just have to keep driving into it. Overall, it's a good all-around do-everything binding. For the most part, this is a damp binding. You do have that air ride dampening in the heel, and this absorbs chatter. The one thing I would like you to note is about an inch back from the end of the toe, there's a spot where the foam really doesn't match up to the chassis, and when you get into frozen chunder or frozen corduroy, you feel that zipper ripple effect coming right up at that point. It just doesn't dampen. Otherwise, everything else, if you're in soft snow, works absolutely perfect. It's a good binding for those of you that get knee fatigue, except for that one little spot, and only in specific conditions. Rider in mind, so who is this binding for? The guy that only wants one binding that has solid dampening and can do it all. Do you like what we're doing over here? Do you want to support us further? Then swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. So I know looking at the heel strap, you're like, this literally looks cheap compared to the previous version, but it works well. It works exceptionally well. I was very surprised. When I took this out of the box and I looked at it, I was like, oh God, I'm just having flashbacks of stuff from my childhood in the late 90s, snowboarding on, going, this is what it looks like. And it's really just the gray that they use makes it look cheap. It's not. It locks you in. This rides better than the previous version, in my opinion. It just contours that strap around the instep so you get a more dynamic, fluid motion when you're driving into it or you're laterally playing. For what it is, this is a very solid binding. Comparable bindings: the Rome Katana, the Union Force, the Ride C6. This has been my review of the Nitro 1. If you're buying a pair and you need to know how to set them up, why don't you go watch my video on that? You know you want to.